Hi everyone, my name is Marcy Walton and I am coming to you from Xavier University in Cincinnati, Ohio. I serve as the Associate Director for Residence Life here at Xavier and started my role in January 2016. I'm very excited to be here on behalf of the Professional Foundations Committee of GLCUHO to bring you our first ever Great Lakes Great Leader networking session with the incredible Quiana from DePaul University. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Quiana, and she can introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Quiana Stone. I serve as the Associate Director for Selection and Training at DePaul University. I've been here 1 year as of October 12th, and so we're into November, and so it's been a great year. And I'm happy to be doing this this evening. So, Marcy, you want me to just kind of jump in with like my background and information?
Yeah, absolutely. So how long have you been in the GLCUHO region and what does involvement look like for you?
Okay, so background, I did my undergrad and graduate work at Indiana University. So I am a diehard Hoosier. Left IU Bloomington, I started my career at Eastern Illinois University as a resident director and spent a little over 6 years. And so in different roles. I went from residence director to a complex director and an area director before leaving EIU. And EIU was really where I first was fully introduced into GLCUHO. My bachelor's and master's took a different approach from doing a career in higher education. My master's is in public affairs with a double concentration in public and nonprofit management. My bachelor's degree is in health administration. And so got that student leader, did the student leader route during undergrad, the Hall Council, the RHA, and all of those different things, and having those mentors. You should go into student affairs. And I feel like you go through this 5 stages of the process: denial, anger, and all of the things where you run from it, and finally got to acceptance. But one was really still on the fence when it came time to make a decision about a master's program and continuing my studies at IU. And so the MPA program was really great for me because it was a broad-based degree that allowed for me to customize what I wanted in terms of the business administration side, but then really allow for some of my electives to come from the higher ed program at IU, which was great. And EIU was really great in terms of developing their entry-level professionals. And so that's why I attended my first GLCUHO conference and started to get on different GLCUHO committees, eventually served in a number of different positions on the GLCUHO board as a chair. And I think I've been involved since really 2005. So I'm kind of, as the young people say, I'm a little old. It's starting to become a little old in the field and in the association. And it has really become my professional home. And so when we talk about professional homes and memberships and associations, I would say that I have grown up in GLCUHO. I've been able to identify some great connections and as well as give back and contribute in a lot of amazing ways that I can see that still carry on through different pieces of the work with some of the committees. I think one of my first committees, which no longer exists because it's been absorbed into some other things, was GLCUHO had a committee for orientation and recruitment. And so the PRO committee. And that was really important to me. Of all the committees that I can choose from, orientation and being transition and what it means to join the association. And at the time, I didn't see anyone that looked like me or had some of the same, shared identities. And so, I said, that's the committee. I want to be on PRO committee because that's the committee I want to be on. And because I feel like I can do some good work and lend my voice to that. And as we transitioned into the new structure that we have today, I was a part of that board in that transition because as the time I became a chair, I was the race and ethnicity chair that transitioned into inclusion and equity. And so what does that mean, and all of those things, and really setting the framework for how that committee would be set up, because that committee absorbed all of our identity and really our social justice and diversity committees, as we had 4 of them. And so where inclusion and equity kind of takes that over. So I think that that's been really cool, and being able to see what it means to put on a conference such as GLCUHO. I think that we, by far, as we are known as the premier organization, put on a great conference, and you know, you can see the work that comes together in that, and it was a great professional development opportunity. So between that, so a number of different chair positions, transitioned back as a committee member, and currently I am on the task force that is looking at some of our social justice and diversity initiatives and how we can continue to better those efforts within the association.
Excellent. You just said about 700 things I want to ask you questions about. So maybe we'll just take that answer and just go the entire hour on that. Because I'm somebody who is not new to the field, but is new to WCUHO, or to GLCUHO, excuse me. I started in WCUHO, and just to see how the organizations are different, and how differently they are run, and what the values and what the experiences that people are able to provide has been really, really fascinating. I'd also like to say that we have a couple of people who are tuning in live, so thank you for that. So those of you that are watching the live stream, welcome. If you would like to pop onto Twitter and ask Quiana and I any questions, just feel free to use the hashtag GLCUHO. I'm watching the feed over on my other screen. Xavier is great, and I have double 22-inch screens. So I feel like I'm like a NASA control person or something. So feel free to shoot us questions. And if you have to pop off, no worries. This is being recorded for posterity, and will be posted all over GLCUHO. So just some kind of practical asides there for a second. I would actually like to go back to your educational background, kind of unique, not sort of the typical student affairs, higher ed, college student personnel thing. So how do you think your educational foundation impacts the way that you network in the field?
Well, what's been interesting, I think, as I have stayed in housing and residence life and kind of grown, not only in the profession, but within the region, folks are surprised once they learn what my credentials, what my background is, because I can speak theory. I have done a number of different things. And so when we talk about it, and that was the thing, that was the decision I had to make. Do I apply for the HESA program, which is a phenomenal program at IU, or do I continue within the School of Public and Environmental Affairs, where my bachelor's degree was housed at? And I knew I wanted to be a part of management and also that idea of like human resources and development and all of those things. And I kept hearing this call from but this higher ed, the academy, all those places, that feels like home, that feels like you can find your place there, because in another life, I would be working in healthcare and probably eventually either in long-term care administration or hospital administration. That's where my life at the time was headed. But the work that I was doing as a student, as a student leader, the work that I was doing at the graduate level, because by the time I got to graduate school, I was president of the Black Graduate Student Association on campus, and all of those different things, and continuing to work with the professionals and seeing the change that happened on campus, I thought that this is where I needed to be. And so what that framework, how I've looked at it, was it's very parallel. And so the MPA, and what's nice is there was a colleague when I was an RD who was an RD at Purdue, and she had the same degree. So I was like, you got me. We get this. You get what this means. I have an RD right now who also has an MPA. And so I was like, know that I get you. I am your person. And what that looks like, because at the end of the day, it's still a business. You know, we are all about the development of students, the development of staff, but there's a business. And so how you handle that business, how you handle the management side of things, that is universal. And so we may use different terms in the business world. They may not be talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs or diving into the 7 vectors. But when you talk about employment, and if you have a disgruntled staff, you know, and you may be using the redress system, you know, in terms of mediation, we have a way of doing that within higher ed. And so it's an understanding of learning the language, learning your environment, learning the culture, and adapting to that. And I think that my educational background has did a really great job in terms of allowing me to understand the language. That once I made the decision that the MPA program was the way that I was going to go, I was able to work with my professors of, this is what I want, but how do I make this work in terms of higher ed? And they were really good about that. Even down to my capstone project, we looked at facilities operations at the university. And so my focus was on how does residential operations and the environmental management handle everything from asbestos and the communication with students to renovations and upgrades, and, you know, how do we keep people safe and healthy and all of those things. So I can identify black mold, you know, in a minute, which would make my supervisor nervous of, what you think we have, what does that mean? Okay, we're gonna call FO, we're gonna call facilities ops, we'll have a conversation, you know, but what does that mean in terms of the management and that infrastructure, which I thought was really great. And so I was able to do that. I was able to take projects and really make it an individualized major program, ideally, and take those projects, take those things, and, well, what does this look like on the higher ed side? What does this look like in student affairs? And of course, with the electives, I was very strategic in my electives of, you know, the history of higher education, looking at, I took a class on the study of whiteness and what it means in higher education. Some of the other like legal, I forget what the title was because I'm old, and that was in 2005, but looking at the law in higher education, all of those, like some of those were elective opportunities that I was able to take, which helped me. And so I think the other piece, because I think we find a lot of people in that same vein that will transition from graduate school into higher ed, sometimes into housing, because we welcome a lot of people with open arms and we like folks with diverse backgrounds. Being able to find an institution that will pour into you in terms of your professional development. And professional development doesn't always mean a conference. And I know, like, I was lucky enough to go to be hired at Eastern, where one, that's what they were about. Mark Hudson was the executive director. Jody Stone was our associate that oversaw the Res Life program, and really spent time training our supervisors of, here's how you develop your RDs, and in turn how your RDs are going to develop your graduate students, because all the graduate students there are required to have, it's a thesis program. So they're completing their thesis and defending when they're done. And so as a supervisor, you have to be fully invested in what that means in terms of understanding their course curriculum, understanding all of those things and how to support them, while also helping you run a residence hall, or for some of them running a smaller residential community. And so being prepared to immerse yourself in translating and being able to speak the language and being able to understand that, and really using those critical thinking skills, I think is really key.
Excellent. I love that. I think that we get in such an echo chamber sometimes in higher ed of, you say something and I agree, and we go round and round, and bringing people with new ideas and new backgrounds is super important. And I can't identify a black mole. I've been in Res Life for a decade. So there's different skill sets needed for everyone, obviously. So in your intro, you talked about kind of the various ways that you've gotten involved in Glakuho. And now you're in the mid-level role now there at DePaul. So how do you think networking looked for you as an entry-level professional? And how does it look for you now as a mid-level?
Mm-hmm. I will say that I definitely was lucky around at the institution that I was at. And I've definitely met and connected with a lot of professionals that have the polar opposite of their department. They may be the only person in their department that's interested in going and participating in Glucuho. They may have staff that only go to a Kauai when, you know, their professional dollars may not support them to go to a Kauai, but they can make it to the regional level and, you know, having to navigate that on their own. For me, I think it was definitely like stepping out on faith, because we all have that nervousness about ourselves. Some of us, even as I guess I would proclaim that I'm an extrovert, but I have introverted tendencies. And, you know, stepping out, you know, even if it's those baby steps of, let me make a goal of making a connection with one person, or who do I know who is that person that's really involved, and, you know, reaching out to them so I can be in community, be in partnership of, well, what should I prepare for? What does this look like? You know, or where do I even start? Because I don't really know. I'm hearing a lot of different things from a lot of different directions. And, you know, how do I figure out what's for me? And I think that starting from ground zero, I think is something that's really important. And so, like, figuring out who that is for you. And even if it's someone not in your department, someone knows someone, because as we know, it's the 6 degrees of separation or less. And so while the Glucuho may not be your jam, but you know somebody who is heavily involved, you know, or if not, Glucuho offers this great website that shows all these beautiful faces of folks that are on the executive board, and, you know, sending an initial email to reach out, whether that's to the state delegate or to someone on the executive board, and they'll point you in the right direction, whether that is themselves or, you know, who is at a sister institution that's near you or within your state that you can connect with, that may be currently serving on a committee or currently, you know, doing something or have been involved in the association. So you do have that connect point, because I think that is something that folks just kind of take for granted, that it's that simple. It's really that simple, you know, in terms of, if this is a goal that you set for yourself, what do you want it to be? I think the other piece too is that I think folks have this idea of, because I'm involved in Glucuho, I'm involved in some other professional associations, that the association is like Disney World, and it's going to be super magical, and they're going to hang you all these things, and people are going to be waiting on the door to hang you this great, like, moment. And it's not. It's really about what you put into it is going to be what you take out of it. And so you're going to have to put in, you know, and I think that folks, forget that. I think that they have this expectation, and, you know, the conference leaders, the association, they're going to do their part, but there also is a part and a role for you to play. And I think that that's something to think about, and that you got to take some time to think about, okay, if I'm joining or I'm identifying myself as connected to the association, what am I able to put in? What am I, you know, wanting to get out of it? And you know, and what am I going to do? What work am I going to do? Because all relationships take work. You know, a lot of folks talk about it like a marriage. A marriage, once you say I do, there's work to be done. So I'm told, you know, because I'm not there yet. But so what I've been told by those who have fruitful relationships, that it takes work. And it's the same thing, I think, with the association, that it does take some work for you to be able to feel like you're on the receiving end. And I think that because there's some missed opportunity there. And so, you know, identifying how I can share that, I think, is something that's important.
Excellent. What are perhaps some pitfalls that, you know, you can out yourself if you want to, that maybe you made in terms of networking as a younger professional, or perhaps things that you've seen people do of like, oh man, if you would just do this or this or this, it would pay off better dividends for you?
Yeah, I would say folks can be real ambitious, especially when they get to the conference. You know, my department paid for me these wonderful business cards, and I'm ready. let's hand them out. And, and then I collect them, and then I'm back at my institution, and who is Marcy and where is she from and why did I take her card? And so those things cost money. If you're going to take it, use it. Sitting some time in the moment, either if you're good that at least at the end of the day or after the end of sessions, you take a few minutes to yourself to write little notes on the back of the card. This is Marcy. She was a Glass Award winner and she presented on such and such. I want to connect with her to talk about that, trying to make that follow up, and thinking about that and being intentional, I think, because I think that folks, that's a missed opportunity when it comes to networking, that I'm gonna call you, I'm gonna send an email, and then life happens, of course, but you don't make the effort to kind of follow back up, and letting someone know, I want to connect with you, and here's why I want to connect with you, and I plan to follow up with you. And this is my timeline. So, taking a SMART goal approach, I would say, to networking, I think is something that folks could do a better job at. I know that we all can do a better job at that. I think that there's so many hours in a day, and while I would love to contribute, I don't get enough time to connect with all the people that I want to connect with. But, trying to figure that out. I think that a way to do that is that if you're going to the conference and that there's someone who you've been meaning to connect with, email them or reach out, find out if they're going to the conference and schedule time. That is the best way. Schedule that time in that, hey, I'm going to get coffee with you. Hey, I'm going to sit with you during the opening. Save a seat for me. Or, hey, let's connect after. Let's go to this event. Find out what sessions folks are going to. Like, let's attend a session together. And, try to really be inventive, I think, when it comes to networking, because that can help avoid some of that, or really set a deadline that once I return, that I'm going to be strategic in who I reach out to. And once I return, I'm going to put it on my Outlook calendar. I put on my Outlook calendar, my out of office, that this is my window of when I'm going to be out of the office attending the conference. And then make some appointment slots a week or two after the conference of, this is my time that I'm going to send the emails to the folks that I selected to collect the business card from. And, I jotted down already while I was at the conference as to why I was taking their card, what I wanted to talk to them about, or just to establish that connection. And that'll help with that, because at least you'll feel at least a little bit better about yourself, because you've at least made that effort. Then the ball is in that person's court because they gave you the card. So, they're going to be waiting on a response, and so then they have to respond to you, and that can kind of carry that. I think that I've had some success utilizing that, and as really, I guess, as folks that have wanted to connect with me, because it's still fresh in my head, the conversations that we had, because you talk to so many people at the conference, and I have selective memory lapses all the time. And so it's good that if I can work on that right after the conference, then it's great. Or even before I go to bed in that moment, and you have that downtime to yourself, send that email while we're at the conference. Hey, it was really great to meet you. If you can do that. And then some people are really social butterflies and busy bees at the conference because you're doing a number of different things. And so, that is another option as well, that at the end of your day, while you're, maybe checking work back at home, checking on things back at home on your campus, or, before you transition into the next thing, set aside a little time to knock some of that out, especially if you're a person that you've made the ambitious goal to collect a lot of cards and do a lot of networking, so you can kind of crunch down on some of that and, use those sound bites, because we talk about that when it comes to interviews, that at the end of an interview day, you want to send your thank yous back to the employer. Some people are really good about, I enjoy interviewing with you, and, I enjoyed our conversation on X, Y, and Z, making it more authentic and personable. I think is good, because it identifies okay, these are the resources that I know I need to send this person, or I know what they're about, and this is how I can help them, or this is how I see this new relationship going.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I love the idea of putting time for follow-up in your calendar, even before you go to the conference. Because everybody knows the conference hangover of you're tired and you're maybe jet lagged and you have all the work waiting for you. Who has time to follow up after that? But that's the perfect time to follow up. So being strategic with your follow-up, I love that. I just tweeted that, by the way, because that's how I remember things. So I'll go back and remember that. So as you kind of traverse the field, what do you think, or rather, how do you think your respective identities have intersect with networking? Either made things easier, made things more challenging, made you look at networking in maybe a different way?
I would say networking, when thinking about my identity, networking looks real different now. So I would say back around, I said it was like 2011, 2012. Lisa Ortiz was our current president, and Glucujo, first Latina president. And so it was very exciting. And her contemporary issue topic was the recruitment and retention of staff of color within Glucujo. And so she had reached out to me about that interest of, hey, guess what my topic is? Because when we were chairs, that was a conversation we would have often about, you know, those salient identities and how they show up, and you know, how we are navigating the region, how we are navigating the academy, how we are working and surviving, I think, within housing a residence life. Because, you know, being an RD is not for the faint of heart. You know, it's like Survivor. Sometimes it feels, you know, especially depending on how the World Series goes tonight, that might be a challenge night for some in Ohio or Illinois.
Right, both of us.
Right. And so thinking about that, folks will make or break their decisions because it you know, if what their trajectory will be working in housing or res life, if they'll be a housing or res life lifer, especially if they're in areas where there are not a lot of people that look like them. There are not a lot of people that share their same sexual identity, or other, you know, salient identities that are important to them, you know. And so they're like, forget this, I'm gonna go work in such and such, or I'm gonna transition into this functional area. And so that was our focus. And so that year, as the Contemporary Issues Chair, Black SAP started. And what we thought, the Black Student Affairs, Black SAP, BLK, SAP, and it was just initially for our folks in the region. We had 4 graduate students at the time that was their first year at the conference. They were African American. They were super excited about everything. And, you know, they said and tweeting was real big. We were hashtagging everything at the conference. And so, you know, everybody, they wanted folks to know, we want folks to know that we're here. We want other graduate students to feel comfortable coming to Glucujo. We're learning great things that are preparing us for our next year and beyond. And so we want other folks to know that they can, that look like us, that are also, you know, a person of color, to know that Glucujo is welcoming and that there is room to do the work. And folks are welcome and open to learn and be in community and in solidarity with them about the work that needs to be done as it relates to social justice and diversity issues within housing and residence life. And we just started with a hashtag. That hashtag evolved into a Facebook group that now has over 7,000 people. And within 2 weeks after that conference, we started being contacted by folks of, is this just for housing? Please say that it doesn't, because the content that you're putting out is powerful. And I had a conference call with about 9 staff, the 9 colleagues that attended that conference, along with those 4 grads of, you've started something, what do you want to do? And what are we going to do with this? And so hence the snowball of where it is today. which I think is awesome because Lakuho, the executive board, I was transitioning off the board and it was like, I don't know what happens with this. I don't know what this looks like. The executive board and every executive board afterwards have been so supportive for Black Sap. But what that has meant for my networking, folks see me and they're like, Black Sap. And I don't have a real name anymore. I still work with one of the Ball State Four. That's what I started calling them. And along with another colleague that was a part of that original group. And we kind of serve as the moderators and the gatekeepers over this experience. And the testimonies, that's what I will call them, have had me in tears in the middle of a conference hallway of the content that is shared, the community that folks have been able to find, the safety that folks have been able to share, the job opportunities. Because I think for colleagues who want diverse staffs, knew we created a job board within this space and would send me their jobs of, we want to diversify our staff. We have a need. Our students don't see Black faces or other faces of color. And we know within that Black Sap community, there are folks among the diaspora, other folks of color that are looking and paying attention to, can you get our jobs out there? And that's been awesome. And especially how I think some things have also played out within social media and other spaces, that started in Gakuho, and Gakuho allowed for that space to be created, and that there's a lunch that can happen at Gakuho for folks to attend, where our seasoned staff of color show up and network over lunch and kind of talk about those issues and talk about the importance of, why it also is important to think about a long-term career in housing and how that can work for you. Because we know the burnout is faster. And so networking has looked real different since that has started for me. That I feel like folks have given me a lot of thank yous, and there have been a lot of tears on my part of things. And, folks are asking us all the time, where will we go next? What do we want? And, I said, this is a space to share what's happening and how you can be involved and how you can find other ways to be developed, and which has been really great. I think I continue to try to serve. I feel like I have a servant's heart. And so in terms of networking, I use that as a way to serve, and to help people connect with other people. Because I may not know the answer, but I know somebody way smarter than me. I know Marcy. And so let me connect you with Marcy, because if Marcy doesn't know, Marcy may know Josh Laurie, and Josh Laurie can be that connect, as a leadership within Gakuho, what that looks like. And so I think that's how I use networking now, being available, showing up, because folks are all about, I love networking, but you're not present. And so you got to understand what presence means when it comes to networking and what presence means for you, because you might have one shot, and to make or break somebody's experience, and that's going to carry with them. Like I can think about some of the first faces that I met my first Gakuho, and where those people are in my life today. And they easily could have ignored me or pretended that I didn't exist. And I don't know if I would have necessarily been back. And, I think that made a difference. And so like understanding the duty that also comes with networking, because we don't think about that. Well, I don't think we think about responsibility that comes with networking. And so really like taking ownership, I think, over that. So I continue to think about that, because, as we're human, we have human moments, and, I may not always be perfect, and, owning that and, I may not always remember someone's name, but I remember their face, and kind of owning that and trying to develop those strategies of, okay, like, yeah, honest, like, I know we've met before, remind me what that looks like, well, and we're talking now, so let's figure out, we're reconnecting now, and let's set those parameters. And I think that those are some tools that I have learned, over time, to kind of help with my own networking and, keeping all my little circles, because we create kind of like Google circles, of networking of, this is how I know them. This is what they do. This is so-and-so, and, this is their functional area, their passions, or what they're thinking about, so that when that time comes, then, I can connect with them, or really connect someone else that could connect with them, or vice versa.
Excellent. I had no idea that Black Sap started in Glucuho. That's amazing.
It was just supposed to be for it was just supposed to be for the region, and some days I sit and I was like, remember we were at Monday night on the town doing dueling pianos, and came up with that idea and searched, and, the hashtag, and, right. And I was like, what do you want? Yeah. I was like, what are you going to say? And how are they going to know you're here? And what does that look like? And who are you? And we thought about a couple of ideas, and, I said, how about Black Sap? How about we spell it like this? And that all happened Monday night on the town.
I love it.
I
love it. So that's a reminder to you all. You have no idea what greatness can happen at Monday night on the town in, I think, like 10 or 11 short days. And right here in Cincinnati. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. I'm just like fangirling, having a little moment. So like, oh my God, I know you. So you talked a little bit about how you have kind of helped others, maybe grad students, entry-level folks, through networking, pull as you climb kind of thing. But how have you seen networking impact you positively in your career? What are maybe some of those people, those connections, those moments, or those opportunities that maybe wouldn't have presented themselves if you hadn't kind of been working your network?
I would say I've seen it happen in a couple of ways. So my supervisor when I was a graduate student, her name was Danielle Ellis. She was amazing student affairs professional. She was also a woman of Delta Sigma Theta, the sorority that I would eventually join. And she was just super awesome to me. And in my second year of grad school, she left to become the first hall director over the University Center up here in Chicago. And I was devastated because I had finally committed to, I'm going to go into housing. What is that going to look like? And, all she could talk about was this woman, Deb Schmidt-Rogers. And I was like, who is she? I hate her. And so the first person, when I finally had an opportunity to meet her at a conference, and I said, hi, this is my name. And she knew my name from Danielle. I said, you destroyed my life because you took my supervisor from me, but needless to say, Danielle helped me navigate through my first OPE experience and all those things. She was that awesome. She was there to meet me in Charleston when I first moved into my apartment within my residence hall at Eastern, and was with me. I didn't make a decision without Danielle. But sadly, we lost Danielle in 2010, and I was devastated. And the woman who I said she took her from me was that woman who reached out to me when we lost her, because Danielle was equally important to her because she was a larger than life personality. And I took that hard. Because she was everything to me, like in terms of a mentorship. And I had other mentors and other folks that were very important, because it definitely takes a village, a subdivision to raise me. And, I had lost like the mayor of the subdivision, and what does that look like? And so folks like Deb, other people within the association, in terms of networking, because I could have just left it as and been in my millennial feelings about she took my supervisor, she gave her this awesome opportunity in Chicago, and what does that look like? And and just left it at that. But I kept up in this conversation because Danielle told me that woman was phenomenal. And if Danielle thought she was phenomenal, then clearly she had something to offer me, and I needed to figure out what that was. And so I think Deb and I have presented together. We did a presentation along with a couple other colleagues called Weathering the Storm, How to Deal with Loss and Balancing Loss while working the job and working this kind of job when all we do is stewardship, servant stewardship. And, what does that look like when it happens to you? Because we know all the right things to say when you're dealing with something tragic. And how do you take care of yourself? And we bonded over, I think, over, supporting each other through that because, of the things and the topics surrounding that, of that loss, and as well as supporting each other as other things had happened and evolved. And so when I think about that, I think about networking in that way because have I not had that connection from Danielle, and immediately that was one of the first things. I ran home, I called Danielle, like, I met Deb, when I first met her. And at that time, I think Danielle had moved on and was working outside of the field. She had took a job outside of the field and had transitioned into another functional area. And so, but she kept in touch with Deb too, on a regular basis, because that's what people do. They keep in touch with Deb. And so that, I think that was awesome. I think that has helped me. I think that I am notorious for dealing with the imposter complex. We talk about that a lot in the profession. And I think through my networks, I've been able to build that circle of trust, that squad that will be able to keep it real with you of, hey, Quiana, today you're a hot mess, and here's why. And I'm gonna need you to get it together. This is what we're going to do.
Said with love.
Not to have those folks that are all those yes, because I think that we're all super happy all the time within student affairs and housing, and we don't want to hurt people's feelings, but you need some folks that are going to keep it real with you. And so I think through networking, I have been able to have those conversations with folks. A colleague, Bobby Cole, she recently just left the region, and we had that conversation all the time. We call each other work besties. And so she is good to tell me, yep, nope, I don't agree. And I would defend it. Well, why? And so, and she would tell me, and I had to own it, like, okay, fine. And so, well, what do you advise? Or here's what I'm thinking, how to kind of deal with that situation, or, check me if I am freaking out for no reason, or I'm in this frantic moment of I can't, and I'm using a lot of I can't. No, yep, yes, you can, and here's why. And don't forget it. And so, and we're done with this conversation. Okay, moving on. Did you see that sale? Like, yes, of that. And I think that has been good, or if I felt, because I feel like we get through those tough times through our networks. And I think those are key ways where it has counted for me. To be able to network, and how it's benefited me, to support me when, okay, I'm prepared for a transition, or I want to take on the next thing. What are some things, because I'm only seeing it through my lens, what are some other things to consider or kind of think about that are folks that are gonna push you and challenge and support you, and that you have to have that board of directors, that squad, that network of those folks, and you got to set expectations. You can't, because folks think, well, if I know Marcy, then, and Marcy's in my network, then I'm good. But why is she there? And what is she doing for you? And then in turn, what are you doing for her? And folks don't think about that. Like, it's not about name dropping. That's annoying, and not a humble way to go, and so, especially if you don't do anything with it. You know, what are you doing with that? What are you doing with those people that, okay, so I need these folks around me. Okay, what are you doing with them and what are they doing for you? And it's okay to seek someone out of, hey, I like you. I like your presentation. I like what you're tweeting out. I like the things you post on Facebook or Twitter, or I've read your blogs. Tell me more about that. Or I want to be in conversation with you. Are you willing and open to talk about some of those things? Or when can we get together to talk about some of those things? And that's great. Like, I've been able to have a couple phone calls with folks. I've been able to help some folks with their doc work and, you know, do some interviews for some people. Which reminds me, I got to get back to someone this week, you know, for one for next week, you know. And so thinking about those things and making that time, I think, is something that's really important.
Absolutely. And I just came into the mid-level role a couple years ago, and really found that I've been relying on that network now more than ever. Now that I'm the only person in my position versus being one of 6 or one of 12. And it sounds like you had the same experience. So I'd actually like to wrap up with the last question, which is a viewer question, listener question. Feel very much like a talk show host, that kind of talks about that mid-level jump a little bit. So what qualities of being a mid-level manager and departmental leader do you struggle with? And what advice do you have for folks who are aspiring to be in that role, or maybe tackling something similar to something that you identified?
That's a good question. I think because, and we were talking offline earlier about, you know, there's a playbook for a lot of different levels, but there isn't a playbook for the middle management arena. And folks can get super confident about, I'm ready. I've done 3 years, or I've done 5 years as an RD. So clearly I'm ready to be a coordinator or a complex director or an area director. I'm ready to supervise full-time people. Are you? Because they are not like a RA or not like a graduate student. They come in from lateral positions. They come in from different experience. You know, they may have worked a few years not in the field, or worked a few years full time, then gone to graduate school, and now they're transitioning into their entry level. You know, they're not cookie cutter, and so it's not a checklist of that. No one tells you how to effectively manage up, at the same time how to effectively manage down, how you have to set your own deadlines, that not every deadline will necessarily be set for you. The isolation that can come with where you used to be on the same level with 4 to 5 other people, or more. You know, you work at Michigan State, it's like 50 of them, right? Love Michigan State. Hey guys, you know, but to go down from that to like 3 or 2. And so, you know, and here, I think this transition was even different from my transition because I left UIC. I was at University of Illinois at Chicago, and I was an area coordinator for one of the functional areas of campus, and, you know, worked with some of the leadership programs. But I had 2 counterparts that were doing the same similar role. Here, it's just me, our assistant director, and our director. And we have a RD staff of 6, 1 graduate staff, and our administrative coordinator, as we're a bifurcated system. And that's real different. Like, I was mid-level there. I was sitting at the table, part of those important decisions, but, you know, working with my supervisor, but it looked different. The politics are different. You know, trying to learn and understand those politics, because no one is going to necessarily spell that out for you. And so you have to think critically. You have to constantly evaluate, you know, where you are administratively, where you are in terms of how you analyze things, you know, understanding it, you know, finding your voice, because as an associate director, you know, as I'm sure you know, folks just expect for you to have the answers, and so, and have it like that. And you know, when you don't, or you're in team, you know, looking at, well, what does that mean? You know, do you not know? Why don't you know? And so it's not that you don't know, you do know, you know, but you are looking at a number of different factors, because all they see is the top of the iceberg. They don't see everything below. You have to understand what help looks like and being able to ask for help. And, you know, understanding where your allies are. And, you know, I think those are things, all things that no one teaches you. While you might have been that RD that was very boisterous and, you know, I'm ready to climb every mountain and I'm gonna die on every hill possible, that's not what you do as a mid-level. You have to be strategic of, is this my hill to die on today? You know, what battles, you know, are you ready to fight? And know that some battles you just can't fight at all, even though you really, really want to, because there is a whole nother upper echelon of politics that are playing out that you weren't privy to. I think the other thing is too, is that as an entry level, you don't understand how much your middle management may shield you, or maybe doing some things for you that you didn't appreciate then, but you get it now. Once you've crossed over, you're like, oh, that's why that played out the way that did. And I didn't understand, and I was just mad, and I was just in my feelings, and I was just going to be a little extra, you know, and act out in meetings, and, you know, those different things. So you had to have that conversation in your one-on-one, because you just didn't understand all of those pieces, because your brain would explode, you know, in some ways. And so I think kind of navigating that, I think every day is a negotiation, because your time is limited. You're in a lot more meetings. You're not, if you love and are connected with students, you're far removed from students, and you go through like student withdrawal. I think that could be a thing. And you don't realize that. Of, oh, I don't have so much access to them, but you're making a lot of decisions for and about them. And, you know, I think the other thing too, struggling with is identifying when you need self-care as a middle manager, and being able to articulate that. I feel like as a RD, you can absorb a lot, because you had 4 to 12 other people to vent to, be in group think with, and all of those different things. And so now you don't have that, because that might not be professionally sound to do. And so you're absorbing a lot, where you can get easily burnt out, and struggle with that, which is important of why you develop a secure network of being able to process and be in community with about those things, especially other mid-level folks that understand that, because and know that I think in those early years that you may not get everything right, where it was real easy to get everything right as a RD or as a grad, that because there are a lot of placeholders and things like set for you. And so as a mid-level, that's not the same. It's not the same in that way. And that could be a struggle. And I think that you find that a lot of people, when they first transition, they struggle a lot, I think, in some ways in their first year, because they're just not prepared for some of that in that way, because it was so perfect for them in their first 2 to 3 years. And so they just, and you're oblivious to some of the things that your senior leadership were putting in place for you to be successful. And so now you're the person putting that stuff in place and creating that. And you're like, oh, okay, no, that's me. I have to figure that out. I have to be thinking not only about my own work, but the work of others and how that impacts that. And, you know, when you do something right, when you don't do something right, how that impacts other people, how are you going to look to fix it? You know, how are you going to work with your supervisor? Because now your supervisor is the director who may not have a lot of time for you, you know? And so, and it's not because they don't want to, but it's because their time is being they're being spread thin, you know, running the department. And so, you know, being strategic about how when you are in front of them, how to best utilize that time so that you can set yourself up for success and you can set them up for success and you can allow for them to set you up for success in return.
Absolutely. One of my favorite sort of quotes or mantras about networking is you need to build your network before you need it. And that has always stuck with me of you can't reach out to strangers in your moment of crisis or, oh my God, I totally bombed that one-on-one, or like this hall director is driving me crazy. What would you do? But you need to have that ready and in place so you can rely on each other as you kind of go. So we are, I can't believe it, but it's been an hour. It has been absolutely delightful chatting with you all today. And hopefully the folks that followed along either on Twitter or through the live streaming enjoyed it, as well as those of you that are watching it now. And if you're watching it later, you know who won the World Series and we don't. So congratulations. Quiana, any final words or thoughts or tips or tricks before we sign off for the night?
I want to wish everyone well who will be attending the Google conference. I hope something that we said you'll put to practice as you prepare for networking, as you prepare for the conference sessions that you choose to attend. You know, pick out the ones, not the ones that just sound good or things that you're passionate about, but also thinking about the conference sessions that you know you need to go to. Like for me, I know that was assessment, and it's like, I know I need assessment, but not in love. Set a goal to attend at least one session, because those are going to be the things as you think about your trajectory. Those are the things that you need. You need to be able to understand some of those tools about assessment, about data, you know, not as well as development and management. Because I think that folks will pick all the ones like, oh, I'm gonna go hear from the past presidents, which all the past presidents are great, or oh, I'm gonna hear from this key person. But some of the jewels are in some of those other practical sessions. And so I definitely want to put that out there, you know, and hopefully something that is said that, you know, you can put in your professional toolbox for tonight, or definitely recommend this to someone else. My contact information, my Twitter handle is Quiana, Q-U-I-A-N-A 09. I'm on Facebook, and my email address is qstone@depaul.edu. So if you want to reach out or connect.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So thanks again, Glakuho or Twitterverse, for tuning in. I appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll be bringing more of these to you in the future. Thanks so much, and be well.